So I read some Shelley and Keats with what comprehension, I'm not sure, but began to write predictably some poems in early 19th century diction, which were terrible. And for a couple of years, I tried to write stories too, but I think mostly poems. And it was one of the things I thought about doing. Another thing I thought about doing was being an actor. And I took part in all the school plays. And, my voice was such that I was usually asked to be the announcer or the speaker anytime. And I thought of the common thread was that I had to be something outstanding, whatever. It's a very common thread. The Oliver Wendell Holmes said that the desire among adolescents or something, the desire to be extraordinary is commonplace. And it surely is. Then, when I was 14, doing both of these things, I had the lead in the high school senior play when I was a freshman. But by the time the sophomore play came around, I took a minor part, turning down the major part, because I wanted to concentrate on poetry entirely. And there was one particular event that did that.
One thing that's important to me is the poet as guardian of language, as someone who is at the forefront of trying to keep it clean and keep an eye on it. And the other is a teller of the tales of the tribe. Certainly the novelist has that as well. But that's certainly one thing I try to do in my area where I live. The poet has done that forever, and he still does. Maybe as the tribe becomes more and more separated, atomized, as things become so volatile, that part of the function can get emphasized more and become more important.
She called me Perkins one time when we were first in New Hampshire, we were driving around in Maine, and we went to a little town called Perkins Cove. And Jane was amused at the dominance of the name Perkins in the town. She used to say it was Perkins Drugstore and Perkins Avenue and Dr. Perkins and so on. And she said, this Perkins must have been quite a guy. And she started calling me Perkins. It's not much of a story, but I think that, my students, when she was my student, didn't call me Professor Hall. It was 1969, and we didn't do that. I was Don. I told about the entry in her journal about Donald Hall before we really knew each other. But even Don was the teacher's name, I think, and so it became sort of comfortable for her to have this pet name for me. She always called me Perkins whenever she was teasing me, but also in affectionate moments, too. She would say, when I got extravagant, she'd say, Perkins, dim your lights, or somebody cover Perkins's cage, and so on. And it was lovely. I tried to have an equivalent name, but whatever I tried never stuck, really. And she was Jane, or Janie, always.
Use it up. This is a particular poetry reading, and it has a particular title, which is To a Waterfowl. James Russell Lowell wrote a poem called To a Waterfowl. I believe it was he. But in this case, the waterfowl occurs in the first line and then disappears forever. Women with hats like the rear ends of pink ducks applauded you, my poems. These are the women whose husbands I meet on airplanes, who close their briefcases and ask, what are you in? I look in their eyes. I tell them I'm in poetry. And their eyes fill with anxiety and with little tears. Oh yeah, they say, developing an interest in clouds. My wife, she likes that sort of thing. I guess maybe I'd better watch my grammar. I leave them in airports watching their grammar and take a limousine to the Women's Goodness Club, where I drink Harvey's Bristol cream with their wives and eat chicken salad with capers with little tomato wedges, and I read them The Erotic Crocodile and Eating You. Ah, when I have concluded the disbursement of my sonorities, crooning, high on thy thigh I cry, hi, and so forth, they spank their wide hands, they smile like Jell-O, and they say, my goodness, Mr. Hole, but you certainly do have an imagination. Thank you indeed, I say. It brings in the bacon. But now my poems, now I have returned to the motel, returned to l'éternel retour of the Holiday Inn, naked, lying on the bed, watching Godzilla sucks Mount Fuji, addressing my poems, feeling superior, and drinking bourbon from a flask disguised to look like a transistor radio. And what about you? You laughing. You in the blue jeans, laughing at your mother who wears hats, and at your father who rides airplanes with a briefcase watching his grammar. Will you ever be old and dumb like your creepy parents? Not you, not you, not you, not you, not you.
The things. When I walk in my house, I see pictures bought long ago, framed and hanging. De Koning, Arp, Laurencin, Henry Moore, that I've cherished and stared at for years. Yet my eyes keep returning to the masters of the trivial. A white stone, perfectly round. Tiny lead models of baseball players. A cowbell. A broken great-grandmother's rocker. A dead dog's toy. Valueless, unforgettable, debtless, that my children will throw away, as I did my mother's souvenirs of trips with my dead father, Kodaks of kittens, and bundles of cards for her mother Kate. As a kid, I came here to be with my grandparents every summer, and I adored my life here with my grandparents. I adored the house and the old people. They weren't as old as I am, but they seemed like old people then. And I always had wanted to live here. We came here and just to spend a year, and by October, Jane said that she would chain herself in the root cellar rather than go back. But it was terrifying. What was I going to make a living out of? Well, I liked to write prose and write for magazines as well as poetry. And so I would work on poetry first thing in the morning and then go on to textbooks, children's books, magazine articles, books which are collections of magazine articles, and so on. And I made a good living. And I really loved doing it. I felt like a bandit, too. I was getting away with something, tremendous. This collection, my last book of poems, I'm running prose now, and I'm very happy. Last poem in this book, which I like, began in 2008, and I have not begun one since. And it's retrospective. Oddly enough, I don't think it's any more morbid than I've been my whole life. The first poem I tried to write when I was 12 years old began, "Have you ever thought of the nearness of death? Do you?" So here I am. At 12, I wasn't nearly so near as I am today, but